Oh boy, he's wearing the costume. Must be a political video. Yep, you guessed right. You know, I got a lot of interest about the jacket that I'm wearing in the comments section of my last video. I guess I'll let you guys get a complete look at it. I had one person say, "Hey, Fakesagan, you ought to auction off that jacket." Yeah! You can auction off these nuts. Nobody's getting their hands on this. I've had this jacket for a long time. I actually got this in Seattle. So it's been part of my wardrobe for a very long time. Some people ask me, what about motorcycle gangs? Are you worried that like the outlaws or the Mongols or something will see you wearing that, think you're a poser and tool you up? If I'm riding a bike down the street and I see some fucking Mongols next to me or something, I'm going to take this jacket off. Maybe I'll even patch it up with like an AMA patch or something so they leave me alone. I don't know. You know, I don't have a bike anymore. I probably will ride again at some point. The last time I rode a bike, I went ass over tea kettle, laid it down, going 50 miles an hour with no helmet on. I fucked myself up real good. If you look at my old video on this channel called The Persistence of Memory, where it's pictures from my life, there's a picture called My High School Girlfriend. It's captioned with that, My High School Girlfriend. And you'll notice there's this big mark on my upper lip. That's because that was shortly after the accident. Like, I kissed the pavement going wicked fast. They put sand on the roads in Connecticut in the wintertime. And then when the snow melts, there's just these patches of sand. And by the time you see it, it's too late to stop or swerve around. So yeah, I laid the bike down, kissed the pavement, and it basically had to sew my upper lip back on. I got reconstructive surgery, and you can't see that scar much anymore. You can still see this little tiny scar on my nose. Some people might have noticed that. That's what that's from. But yeah, I mean, the jacket, like, I've had this forever. I'm not giving it up. Anyway, though, so why are you dressed as a black bloc? Because this video is about the UC Berkeley Milo Yiannopoulos event. Milo, whatever. I always pronounced it Milo. I think that's how he says it. Where, you know, the black bloc showed up and they wrought a bunch of havoc. I guess calling it a protest is kind of a misnomer. It was a riot. Let's call a spade a spade. It was a riot. So I'm sure my audience is saying to themselves, well, hey, Fakesagan, you used to be an anarchist, so maybe you have some opinion about this. Motherfuckers, I'm still an anarchist. I see all this dumb shit in the comments, right? Big surprise, because it's YouTube. Where people are like, oh, you've switched political ideologies 100 times. No, I've switched political ideologies once in 10 years on YouTube. Once. You guys are just too fucking stupid to realize how much I haven't changed. Alright? When I started making videos here back in the day, I was a big government leftist. I was essentially your garden variety liberal. Then I became an unhyphenated anarchist, and that's still what I am. I've become intrigued by the ideas of Christian anarchism, along the vein of Leo Tolstoy and The Kingdom of God is Within You, but I haven't fully signed on to that yet. Yeah, ain't shit changed, guys. And as far as people thinking that my newfound Christianity is some kind of wild card when it comes to my politics, it really isn't. I'm every bit a Christian, but I'm also an American. You know, I don't want a theocracy. I believe in separation of church and state, secular government, especially because that's what gives me the religious freedom to practice my faith the way I want to. You know, if we had some kind of theocratic government, chances are orthodoxy would be off the table. You know, it would end up being like Roman Catholicism or some form of Protestantism. I don't know. That would be like the official state religion, and I'd have to pack it in, or at least just go into hiding. So, yeah, everybody's waiting for me to become like some kind of rabid pro-lifer or something. Not going to happen. Now, if you would have asked me the question before I converted to Christianity what I thought about abortion, I would have told you the exact same thing that I'm telling you now. I believe people should have the freedom to do what they want with their bodies. I don't want the state to intervene. Yet, I think abortion's fucked up. Now, back in the day, I would have just said, well, it's essentially a hair's breadth away from murder. I won't actually go so far as to call it murder because, the lines are blurred. Like, what would you say about a woman that has a miscarriage? Is she a murderer? And yet, nevertheless, these days, I would definitely characterize it as a sin. But I think God gave us free will for a reason. We should have the right to sin. If people want to choose the fiery chasm of hell, who am I to stand in their way? That's between you and God, And, so essentially, ain't shit changed. One of the evidences that people have been using for why you're not an anarchist anymore, Fakesagan, is because I voted for Trump. Well, BFD. I've always driven my car on public roads. I mail letters with the U.S. Postal Service. Oh no, you're not really an anarchist. And during that whole time when I was making a lot of videos about anarchism, I was politically active as fuck. During that time, I was a campaign intern for a congresswoman. I was working as a field manager for numerous grassroots companies training political organizers, training political canvassers. So, I've worked in politics. I've involved myself with civic life. I've never been of this opinion that if I can't have things exactly my way, like if I can't live in a stateless society, then I might as well just curl up into a fetal ball and fucking complain all day and not do anything to better my lot in life and make the place that I live the best it can be and conforming to the utmost of my potential to what I would like it to be. It's called pragmatism. It's about making the best of a bad situation. But, well, I'm sure a lot of people are going like, oh, the black bloc made asses of themselves, and you like Milo Yiannopoulos, so ha 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 ha, cognitive dissonance. Well, no, there's no cognitive dissonance at all. Here's how I feel about this. First of all, and this is going to be so difficult to explain this to the layperson, let me use a visual aid. Do you remember when the mainstream media was really, really confused about this? And they just couldn't seem to cotton on to the fact that people who were wearing these at protests weren't all part of some highly organized movement with like a leader and some coherent political message, and that one guy standing next to another guy, both wearing these masks, might not agree with one another on pretty much fucking anything at all, except, possibly having free and open internet and just a general vein of anti-authoritarianism, right? Well, it's the same with the black bloc. Because just like this is a tactic, not a group. Right? There's no like leader of the black bloc. It's a tactic. So right now, by me wearing this costume, I am the black bloc. Although I'm not in the black bloc, because there's no black bloc to join. And anybody who says they hate the black bloc, it's like saying you hate balaklavas. Oh, I hate those balaklavas. Well, what are you talking about? A lot of people wear balaklavas for a lot of different reasons. The Red Army wears balaklavas. American SWAT cops wear balaklavas. Bank robbers wear balaklavas. A lot of people wear it for a lot of different reasons. Just because you're wearing that doesn't necessarily mean you subscribe to some kind of ideology. This is a tactic, nothing more. That's what this is. It's a tactic, not a group, not an organization. Now, that having been said, the protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, at UC Berkeley, they were, for the most part, anarcho-syndicalists, aka Antifa. And these guys have always been the most cancerous dot on the political compass. You know, that four-square representation of modern politics. These guys are even more obnoxious than like real deal neo-Nazis. It's just the kind of, they're the kind of people that the minute you run into one, you just want to roll your eyes like, oh boy, this guy's going to open his mouth and it's going to be the most painful thing since my last root canal. Yeah, they fucking suck. And I don't consider them anarchists at all. I consider them communists. They're violent, and of course, violence is defined as harm to sentient life forms, right? So breaking a Starbucks window is not violence because inanimate objects don't feel pain, and property doesn't have feelings to be hurt, right? We get that. We all get that, right? So setting a dumpster on fire or knocking over like a municipal lighting mast or something, that doesn't count as violence. However, ganking somebody in the head with your flagpole does, and pepper spraying some chick in the face because she's wearing a MAGA hat, yeah, that's real deal violence, the kind I don't approve of. And those guys definitely should have gotten their asses kicked for doing that shit. So there you go. I mean, let me allow no ambiguity whatsoever about that. Now, some people are probably going to be of the opinion that anarchists are taking a side all of a sudden. They're becoming partisan, right? Anarchists are anti-Trump, but where were they during Obama's administration, right? We didn't see any black bloc activity during the Obama years. Well, allow me to explain. They're not really taking a side. Some of them maybe. These Antifa guys definitely. Okay, these anarcho-syndicalist, commie, divided black flag with the red and black, yeah, they're taking a side. But anarchists in general go where the civil disobedience is, and they don't care. So let me use a great example. During the November 30th, 1999 protests of the World Trade Organization in Seattle, the infamous battle in Seattle, there was a great moment where a reporter stuck her microphone in an anarchist's face. The guy was wearing the black bloc. And she said, "So you're an anarchist?" And he says, "Yes." And she said, "And you're here to protest the WTO?" And he said, "No, I'm not here to protest anything." And she said, well, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, I'm against the World Trade Organization, and I'm against globalism, but I'm not here to protest. I'm here because I heard that there were going to be 50,000 people here today. And I know that with just a little push in the right direction, things are going to get interesting." See, that's what the black bloc does. They show up to protests and try to turn them into riots. They want to catch lightning in a bottle. They want to live their ideals for 5 minutes and exist in that temporary autonomous zone that only exists between the hurling of the first Molotov cocktail and the moment when the nasty girls jump out of their deuce and a halves and start restoring order. And the fact is, there was not a lot of protest activity going on during the Obama years, so there were no protests for the black bloc to show up at and turn them into riots. But a lot of people don't like Trump. So there's protests, and when there's a big protest, the black bloc is going to show up, and they're going to do what they do. They're going to try to cause a riot. They're going to try to wreck shit up. You have to resist the temptation to look at the black bloc wearing what essentially is a uniform and see uniformity, because there is no uniformity there. If you were to interview two guys dressed like this at a protest, they might not agree on a damn thing. The only visual cue to really indicate what these guys stand for is to look at their flags, right? So if you see a divided black flag that's half black, half red, anarcho-syndicalist, communist, Antifa, whatever you want to call them, you know who these guys are. If it's divided black and gold, yellow, whatever, they're Ayn Rand droids, they're Stefan Malimim watching lolbertarians that hang out on the Cato Institute website. That's what those guys are about. And if you're lucky enough, if you're in the right place at the right time and you actually find that rarest of breed, a true anarchist, most likely that guy will be hoisting the undivided black flag. No diagonal division, just a black flag. Those are the real anarchists. And those are the ones who show up at a protest without an agenda. They don't really care what's being protested. They don't care why it's being protested. They're not partisan. They're not there because they hate Donald Trump, although a lot of them probably do, but no more than they would hate any president. They're just there because there's a sizable crowd and there's an opportunity for mayhem. That's what they're about. That's why they're there. Now, that having been said, what do I think about this UC Berkeley riot that occurred? Well, I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, people were victimized. People were beaten with flagpoles and maced in the face, which is it's fucking terrorism. Call it what it is. I mean, that's a chemical weapons attack. You know, those of us living in the United States probably don't think of it that way because pepper spray is ubiquitous here and it's part of our everyday experience. We all are so used to seeing it, we don't think of it as what it actually is. It's a chemical weapon, right? So that's fucked up. And like I said, those guys should have had their teeth kicked in. As far as them bricking windows at UC Berkeley and lighting shit on fire, beautiful. And especially the delightful irony of the fact that most of these guys were probably students of UC Berkeley, right? So it's just an example, another in a long line of examples of how the left is eating itself right now. The establishment left, I should say. They're in Ouroboros fucking consuming themselves. They're destroying themselves, brick by brick, and it's amazing to watch. Because Berkeley is ground zero for all this really abhorrent campus liberalism that's swept the academic community. You know, Berkeley is probably where the first safe space was created. Berkeley is probably where the first slut walk was organized. Right? It's the dark land of Mordor, essentially. It's the epicenter of faggotry in the U.S. And if Milo Yiannopoulos was able to get them to burn their own campus to the ground just by offering to speak there, he's a genius. Not that I didn't already know that. And you can bet that he's going to be back at it tomorrow. You can bet that he won't be deterred by this happening. Now that he knows he can get liberals to tear apart Berkeley just by scheduling a speaking engagement, he's going to reschedule. He's going to do it again and again and again until there's not a building left standing there. And, you know, nothing happened to Milo because of this. I mean, the first time a brick hit a fucking window, you could bet he did a fucking Anthony Daniels C-3PO and got his swishy ass the fuck out of there. He was like, oh no, they're getting violent. I'm out of here. And that was it. I mean, fucking Milo. What can you say, right? Genius. Anyway, that's the bottom line. Just wanted to inform you guys a little bit. Yeah, those guys at Berkeley, they were Antifa. They were